All right.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Patriots First and Goal, Week 4 edition. I am Alex Shane here breaking down whatever the hell passed for a Patriots-Jets game last Thursday with my good buddy Rich Hill. Rich, have you recovered from that Thursday night beatdown that you predicted the Patriots would win? Let's start with that.
Okay. I'm going to say, in my defense, that was the worst offensive line display I've seen from the Patriots since probably midpoint of last year. That was bad. That was really, really bad. I hope that they can improve. I hope that the players will gel and look a little bit better in the weeks to come because, Jacoby Brissett, completely underwhelming. This was not his fault. The fact that they allowed 7 sacks this game, beyond unacceptable.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. It's First and Goal, Patriots-Jets breakdown. It's a combination of a couple things, in my opinion. One, to give all credit to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers looked as good as he's looked since like 2021 on Thursday.
Unbelievable.
He was just dialed in. Those are the games that make you realize how great a player he is. So cap tip there. But yeah, I mean, I think the rock bottom moment of this game for me, maybe it's different for you, Rich, was the end of the half Hail Mary when the Patriots had 6 linemen and the Jets rushed 3, and they got pressure to Brissett. They were outnumbered 2-1, the defensive line of the Jets, and they still got to Brissett on the Hail Mary. That's when I knew things were going south. Nothing went right for the Patriots. Jets completely dominated. The Pats have been on the giving end of games like this many times in the Pats-Jets rivalry over the last 20 years. So it's not so much the loss that stuck with me. It's just how badly they got slapped around on offense, and they did absolutely nothing. I'm looking back. I know it's been over almost a week since the game happened, but I can't remember a single offensive play where I was like, oh, that was awesome. Like, not one. Just a bad performance all around.
Totally. Well, it's also one where it's like, I think the coaches admit this very immediately after the game. They're like, we kind of stopped running the ball. We didn't actually even really try to in the first place. Like you look at just how the timeline went. They were just going Jacoby out of the gate, which made no sense to me because that has not been their game this year. And why would you think passing against this Jets secondary with Sauce Gardner was the right move, right? Like if there's anything that you should be doing against this Jets defensive front that was missing CJ Mosley, it would be running it up the middle. And they pretty quickly said, Jacoby Brissett, you're going to throw the ball a lot. And it was one where the time of possession was just unreal in favor of the Jets. It was like 2-1. You can never win in that game, especially when your offense is just completely inept in the way that the Patriots are. But this was hands down the worst offensive performance by the Patriots this year.
Yeah, I mean, Rich, I feel like we've talked about this in the past. If the Patriots were 1-2 through 3 weeks and their one win was to the Seahawks and not the Bengals, it might be a little different narrative. I feel like there were some unfair expectations set with that Bengals win, and people, they almost beat the Seahawks. They could have been 2-0, so maybe this is a little bit of a kick in the pants that we should have seen coming in retrospect. But I don't know. I was never at any point during the offseason, as much as I steeled myself for a crappy Patriots team, I never thought they'd look that terrible offensively.
Totally. I mean, like, they are literally the worst passing attack in the NFL right now. Praise Andy Dalton with his revival with the Panthers, bringing him up from the cellar. But the Patriots rank 32nd in yards passing this year, in like net yards as well. And one where how many passing yards do you think they have, Alec, this year? How many yards do you think they've passed for? Total.
I mean, they're averaging maybe 100 or so yards a game in 3 weeks. So I'll say 346.
Yeah. So they have 390 through 3 games.
I was close.
Exactly. But when you remove the sacks, they've lost 84 yards to sacks. They have a net 306 passing yards this year, which is a mediocre game for Tom Brady. Like this is through 3 games. And it's one where I loved positive roses for this game. Demario Douglas getting involved. That's wonderful. Love to see it. But thorns, they can't have more than one player going at any point in time, it seems like. And this was a problem they had all last year and the year before that, where they just do not have multiple players that are able to show up in the same game. And part of it, great Jets defense. The part of it, The offensive line just simply is not allowing the Patriots to have the opportunity for plays to develop. They rank 32nd in the league in pressure rate allowed by their offensive tackles. They rank 32nd in pressure rate allowed by their interior line. They are literally the worst across the board. They don't have a bright spot on their offensive line, and I don't see it getting better.
No, look, I mean, again, like it's like we've talked this before too. It's tough to get too upset at the offensive line for playing exactly the way we thought they'd play, as they really did not invest any resources into the O-line this offseason. They went all quarterback, great, but they did the defense, great, but they just didn't do any resources into the offensive line. It's a glaring hole now, and it's really coming to pay them. It's tough. I mean, I don't want to knock the defense too bad. I think, honestly, given the time of possession, given that it was Aaron Rodgers out there playing like vintage MVP of the league, Aaron Rodgers, 24 points actually isn't that bad for a defense, put in the situations that they were in, where the longest Patriots drive lasted maybe 3.5 or 4 minutes. There's just no time to relax, no time to rest, and you're going up against one of the all-time greats. So 24 points isn't a horrible showing for the Patriots defense. It's more of the same for the Patriots offense. And one thing I think no one's really talked about, Rich Hill, is Ramondre Stevenson has now played 3 games and put 3 fumbles on the ground. Recovered 2 of them, but he's fumbled once per game. And if he's going to be the only offensive weapon you have, and he's good for 1 fumble per game, that's a huge problem.
And those fumbles are things where, if you were Bill Belichick, how long of a leash would you give Ramondre Stevenson on this? Because I don't think he's been running recklessly with the football, but some of like the one that happened was like he clearly just got out muscled. He was not focusing on the ball. It was like a lack of focus fumble against the Jets. And you just can't have that. You can't have that. But on the other hand, who else do they have to play running back?
Yeah, I mean, look, Antonio Gibson, I think he's actually been a pretty nice addition to this team. He's a nice change of pace back. He's a hard runner. I think he was the leading rusher for the Patriots with a whopping 29 yards, on 5 carries. Not a bad yards per carry ratio, but he's not some kind of every down back. And when you have a opposing defense that understandably just doesn't respect the passing game at all, is not worried about any kind of a deep shot, I think the good news is we did see a deep shot to Tyquan Thornton. He drew a DPI call. That's something. Is him getting involved in the passing game of Tyquan Thornton's 1 target for 0 catches. He drew a pass interference call. So I'm glad, like, I know you pointed out how, like, they maybe didn't pick the best game to suddenly air the ball out, because running really would have made a lot of sense. But it's almost like they listened to everyone saying, where the hell's the passing game? We're like, all right, we'll pass it just to shut the critics up. I'm glad they are throwing the ball, but they didn't throw it that much. There were total 16 completions all game not a good overall stat. I don't know, man. It's very difficult to gauge how bad the offense is in terms of skill players, in terms of timing, in terms of drawing plays up at the line, when there's just no time to do anything. Is there really any kind of way to scheme this offense where like every play is like a quick screen or a quick slant? You can't do that. That's not sustainable. So I don't know. Plus, maybe we should talk about this a little bit, Rich Hill, before we move on here. Because again, I don't have a whole lot to break down about this game. It was just a pretty big embarrassment. We did see Drake May make an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
He got slapped around pretty good. He had I hate to say this, the play of the game was, I think, a 4th and 10 conversion to Demario Douglas, where he looked off the safety, set up 1st and goal when the game well out of hand. It was just a meaningless 15-yard pass on 4th and 10. That's pretty much his only highlight, beyond some dump offs, some screens, some handoffs, some running for his life. Are there any Drake May positives you're taking away from this, or is he just so busy running for his life that you can't really judge one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to judge him for his first start. That first pass, mulligan. They broke it down live right during the game when they were just like, look at how this veteran just baited this rookie quarterback into this throw. But after that, it wasn't bad. Like, obviously the offensive line is terrible, and he was doing the best with what he could. It's also a situation where this is not an offense that threatens anyone.
Nope.
And where I think there's limitations with Jacoby Brissett, obviously. But what I would want to see a little bit more out of Alex Van Pelt is some of that creativity that you see around the league that can make the likes of Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, other sorts of middle of the road quarterbacks have effective offenses. Like, I don't think anyone's looking at Geno Smith or Sam Darnold being like, yes, they have figured it out and they're now the franchise. And even though I know Geno got his money, but it's ones where like no one's considering them to be a top 10 quarterback, but they're leading efficient and effective offenses. Where is that? Where is that type of play calling where, okay, there's no Justin Jefferson running out there or Jordan Addison in the way that the Vikings have just a myriad of talent out there at the receiving position. But it is a situation where the Patriots have 0 targets in the middle of the field, more than 10 yards down the field. You look at the scatter plot of the passing attack for this Patriots. Defenses are just saying, we're going to take away the deep middle. Good luck. You're not going to hit anything on the outside. And like, to their point, Jacoby's not hitting anything. But where I feel like it's hard to evaluate this offense because the offensive line is so bad in part. But the other part is that I feel like we're not seeing anything creative out of this offense to try and elevate it into something more than just the sum of its very weak parts.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good thing, or the big thing, I should say. It's like there really hasn't been any kind of, this is what our offensive line is. This is what our offensive limitations are. How can we work within those limitations? And we saw that with the Patriots. There were some Patriots teams that weren't that great offensively, but they figured out ways to capitalize on defensive mistakes, or they knew what the weaknesses were. I think it was 2015 where the offensive line, everyone was injured along that line. Julian Edelman and James White were just a lot of quick slants, and they got the ball out quickly, and they used a lot of misdirection and a lot of play action. Jumbo sets of the tight ends breaking out into the flats. And there are ways you can mask your weaknesses by capitalizing on their weaknesses and playing to your own strengths. And we aren't seeing that yet. Obviously, a work in progress. It's still very early in the season. Maybe as the year goes on, we will start to see that offense start to gel a little bit more. To that end, Jacoby Brissett has been named the starter already against the 49ers. Do you agree with that decision, Rich Hill? And do you see Brissett continuing to start as long as the offensive line is still this bad? Or if you had to predict right now, is Sunday's game against the Niners going to be the last time we see Brissett suit up for the Patriots as a starter?
There's the point where what's the point, right? Like, what's the point of Jacoby Brissett out there other than purely he is the meat shield, which is a horrible way to approach it and look at it, but like is factually kind of it, because Jacoby's not doing anything out there. He has not done a single thing to this point in time where you're like, cool, he's manning the ship. He is barely getting by. And by barely getting by, I mean he's not getting by. His season production is a very mediocre game overall. And it's something where he's not making things happen with his legs, which is what you need to do in order to compensate for a weak offensive line. And he's getting sacked a lot. Sure, he's not turning the ball over with interceptions, but like, so what? Right? Like, you need to have a little bit more upside in this offense to have anything happen, right? You look at, it was a Keon White who posted it on social media a couple weeks ago of just like, how much effort is this defense putting in just to watch the offense do absolutely nothing? And that was absolutely the case last year. And what we cannot afford to have happen is for everyone to check out on this team because the offense is going through a second year of just complete ineptitude. Third year, honestly, you have the Patricia year, O'Brien year, and now has Van Pelt. We have not seen any improvement whatsoever. The offensive line has gotten progressively worse. The skill players have gotten progressively less impactful. The quarterback play has gotten more and more, non-existent out there. So it's a situation where we haven't seen anything improve. Jacoby's not doing anything to deserve to be out there in any meaningful way. And so at some point, you already started to see this towards the end of the Jets game. Boutte had more snaps overall than Tyquan Thornton, where you say, why is Osborne out there? Why is he out there playing the most snaps of all the wide receivers? At some point, go with Drake May, Go with Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, put out Baker, put out Boutte, put out players that have upside and see what they can do, because it quite literally can't get worse.
It can't get worse. Jacoby Brissett, I like Brissett. I think he's a good locker room guy. The teammates like him. He's a hard worker. I think he's a good kind of game manager, low upside, serviceable quarterback. And I think in a certain system, he could be fine, but he's not the kind of guy you want manning the helm of this particular offense. He just isn't. And I can't help but wonder if with Drake May being in there as a rookie, as somebody learning the ropes, I think there might be a different mentality. At least there's some kind of progress being made. You're taking your lumps. You're learning from your mistakes. You're not just kind of treading water, circling the drain. You're at least paddling backwards against the current. You're kind of figuring yourself out for future gains down the line. I feel like that will make up for a lot. If I had to guess, I think Sunday's game will be Brissett's last as starter. And then we go with Drake May in week 5 against the Dolphins without Tua. I think that's a very good first game for him. Yep. I'm not saying they're not starting him because he's weak-minded or he doesn't have what it takes yet. I just think one more game of Brissett, I think he's earned at least that. And why trot him out there across the pond, across the country to take on Nick Bosa and Fred Warner? That's just a horrible looking NFL moment for him. But overall, man, I wasn't too upset about the loss. I don't care about wins and losses this year. I really don't. It's more just how they lost and how little progress they seem to be making so far. And again, I'll admit it, I was a little thrown off my game by that Bengals win. And I was a little kind of maybe more hopeful than I should be for this team. However, Rich Hill, they have the exact same record as their opponent this week, the 49ers. I feel like everyone kind of stinks this year. There's no like clearly dominant team. Maybe the Bills, but there's not like this one squad is just like lighting people up. So it's going to be kind of a down year offensively overall. And in a down offensive year, the Patriots are just really down. But I don't want to talk about this game anymore. Anything you want to talk about with this game?
No, let's move on to second down.
All right, let's move on to second down. We're going to go around the league, and around the league is brought to you by Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Like I said, this is the Patriots podcast, and you always pick less with the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett for less than 150 passing yards. Ramondre Stevenson for more than 1 fumble. You'll probably get a win on Prize Picks. Prize is also meant to flex play, which awesome. It means you get the cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. That means you double your money even if one of your picks doesn't even hit. So download Prize Picks today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That is code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the bonus because it's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. So Prize Picks is week 4, Rich Hill. Obviously, Patriots are playing the 49ers in the afternoon slot. The Cowboys and Giants, that should be a crappy game tomorrow or Thursday night game. Any of these games around the league you're excited about? Bills-Ravens should be pretty good.
Yep.
The Ravens really, really need a win at the Sunday night game. For some reason, the NFL is doing double headers on Monday night now. It's the Titans, Dolphins, and the Seahawks and Lions on Monday night. Lions Seahawks could be a good game, sneaky good game. But my game of the week personally is Chiefs Chargers. I think Chiefs Chargers is the AFC West matchup. The Chiefs have looked okay. They looked very, very beatable. And the Chargers, I think, are of the other teams in the AFC West are the most primed to dethrone them atop the division. So that's what I'm watching out for.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a good one. I feel like the way that the Chiefs and Chargers play is off, like, reminds me a lot of the Patriots Dolphins, where, like, no matter how good the Patriots were under Tom Brady, something weird happens. Like, the Chargers aren't going to win the Super Bowl. Like, they're just not. But there's something funky that happens when they play the Chiefs, where, like, they get that weird upset and hold Mahomes to, like, 10 points, and the Chargers win 13-10 because the Chiefs fumble it 4 times. And, like, then the Chargers don't look good ever again, and then the Chiefs all of a sudden look unbeatable. So I wouldn't be surprised if something wacky happens in that game. The weird game that I really want to watch, the Washington Commanders on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. And let me tell you why.
Please.
Jaden Daniels, looks so good for the Commanders. I think they've scored on every single drive over the past 2 games, something absurd. Like they just don't pump the ball anymore. He's been wildly efficient, completed 21 out of 23 of his passes last week. And he's putting it all together. They have a sneaky good team. And then you have this Cardinals team who like don't let their 1-2 records like sneak up on you. They have a top 5 offense right now. You know, they put up 41 points against the Rams in week 2. Obviously, it was a little bit of a lackluster game against the Lions, but in week 1, they put up 28 against the Bills. They have some good pieces out there. I've always liked James Conner. Marvin Harrison is looking fantastic as a rookie receiver out there. Obviously had a quiet game 1, but he's looking good. Trey McBride, one of the more underrated tight ends in the league as far as his receiving ability goes. They have the pieces out there. This has, in my mind, the all of the necessary puzzle pieces to make this be a 35-34 game that could be sneaky fun to watch.
It's funny, man, looking down this list of games for the week 4 slate, this is one of those weeks where on like at first glance, they're all like, these are all a bunch of crappy matchups, but these are always the best weeks of football because the game's really close. You get a couple of overtime thrillers. I feel like Vikings-Packers could be a great game with Jordan Love back to practice. I don't know what's going on with Sam Darnold in the Vikings uniform, but he is absolutely crushing it right now. The Bills are taking on the Ravens, like I talked about. That's going to be the night game. It's going to be awesome. Eagles-Buccaneers could be a good game. Broncos-Jets. The Broncos somehow beat the Buccaneers last week, and the Jets are coming off a super high one. The Saints-Falcons, I don't know. Jaguars-Texans, maybe not so much. I'll tell you, man, with Andy Dalton's revival of going to hosting his old team, the Bengals, who are 0-3, that could be a fun game too. So this is a really good kind of turn on Sunday ticket, especially for the early slate, and just let Scott Hanson do his thing. I'm excited about it.
Totally. And my last thought on this week of games, biggest pretender game, the 3-0 Steelers on the road against the 1-2 Colts. Obviously, no one's thinking that the Colts are any good, but this Steelers team is undefeated by the seat of their pants. They are barely getting by on this one. Justin Fields is just, somehow looking competent, but Mike Tomlin has this team out punching whatever they should be doing at this stage. This is real Steelers football where you just like, how is this their record? I feel like the pieces aren't there yet. There they are atop the AFC North, where everyone else is looking pretty bad. They have a 2-game lead already in the division, which is just shocking, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously like the Seahawks have the same thing going on in the NFC West, but you have teams like the Ravens and Bengals and even the Browns where people had higher hopes. This Steelers team was supposed to be vying for the bottom spot in that division, and yet here they are.
Yeah, it's weird because you think Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, that's like they're kind of a quarterback, quote unquote, controversy. You don't think they're really going to be able to do anything with it, but here they find themselves. But again, it's a good time to be in the afternoon slot. It is one of, I think, 2 afternoon slots the Patriots have in 2024. The rest are all in the 1 p.m. slot. They've been relegated to that. It is the Niners game at 4:05 p.m. They're both 1-2, so we're sitting here lamenting the end of the season. Here is the NFC favorite sitting with the exact same record. It's early in the season. They're all the way across the country in San Francisco. I want to start with the Patriots offense because that is their weakness against the 49ers defense because that is a strength of theirs. The 49ers are also banged up. But my question for you, Rich Hill, this Patriots offense, this 49ers defense, I'd like to hear from you how a offensive line lineup that consists of Demontre Jacobs, Zach Thomas, David Andrews, Layden Robinson, and Mike Onwenu is going to be going up against a guy like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Sam Okinyayu, to name a few, and how the hell they're going to keep whoever's under center upright. How do they do it?
Honestly, you could have made up some names for this Patriots offensive line, and I would not have known. Like, that's how bad this is. I think they're on their 4th tackle, and they're on their, 5th string left guard. Like, this is bad. It's one where in past years, you'd always talk about Patriots depth, right? You always look at the 3rd offensive tackle, the 4th interior lineman for the Patriots would end up playing around 40% of the snaps just due to injuries. That's what happens. The injury bad luck that the Patriots have had on the offensive line over the past few years is astoundingly bad, where when they were at their best, it was a bad offensive line. And now they're playing almost entirely below replacement level players. And Onwenu, is the only one that I feel like is playing well. David Andrews obviously is just surrounded by players that can't do anything on the interior. This is a bad line. They don't have a hope against this team. Nick Bosa, obviously one of the best pass rushers in the entire league. Leonard Floyd, pass rush specialist. Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, very, very strong interior linemen. Obviously, Fred Warner, one of the top 4 linebackers in the entire league. Devondre Campbell had a career resurgence as of late. This is just a very devastatingly good defensive front. There's not a good way to approach it if you are the Patriots. That's just plain and simple. They are going to be eaten alive. And therefore, if you are the Patriots, what you have to do is figure out how can you extend the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by that is make it where you can't just sit in the pocket. Jacoby Brissett has faced the second highest rate of pressure in the entire league this year, behind only with the Browns, Deshaun Watson. And so it's a situation where the Patriots can't try and play the pocket game. Brissett has to make things happen with his legs. And so what the Patriots really need to do is a lot of bootlegs, a lot of movement, and a lot of motion. Try and get things moving side to side. Because if they stay within the tackle box, he's going to get teed up for another 7-sack performance. So if I'm the Patriots, use the elongated run game, try and use the quick passing game as an extension of the run game. Because if there is a weakness in this secondary or for this 49ers team, it is in that secondary. Like, they are still a very good secondary. They have a lot of high-end players on that back end. But if there would be a weakness here, it would be trying to stretch it towards the sidelines to just try and get 4 to 5 yards at a time through the passing game.
So basically the strategy they shouldn't have used against the Jets, which is pass the ball a lot, this is the week they should be airing it out a lot more, because you don't see Ramondre Stevenson running for a lot of yards against a stout defensive front.
Yeah, it's just a complete inverse defensive personnel situation here, where the Jets secondary is so much better than their up front. Here, the 49ers defensive front is their strength. And so I would just avoid it. I would feel comfortable just avoiding it. But it's also a situation where you look at how teams have had some level of production against them. This 49ers defense, I don't want to overspeak, because I said this about the Jets and then they held the Patriots to 3 points. But there has been some opportunity to move the ball efficiently. Not like effectively or any big reasons, but they rank bottom 10 in a lot of metrics on defense. But can the Patriots capitalize on some of those areas? I don't really think so. But the teams that have had success have done it through the air.
Yeah, again, it's just like you look at kind of hat on a hat matchups and where do the Patriots win at any level in this matchup here? I just don't really see any scenario. Maybe David Andrews is but there's really not this Patriots player is a better player than this 49ers player on offensive defense. So it's going to take a lot of trickery, deception. Maybe they've been going really vanilla the first couple of weeks, could go totally playbook crazy and pull some double bootleg reverses and halfback passes out of their rear end in this game. I don't know. You got to take some shots down the field. I think there's no way you can just kind of dink and dunk your way, but taking shots down the field also requires 4 or 5 seconds in the pocket, which you might not have. So it's going to be a kind of an interesting kind of chicken or egg scenario. Rich, you have no idea. I'm not going to do it, but you have no idea how badly I want to pick Tyquan Thornton as my X factor for this game. Because I feel like if anybody's going to have one big play, it's going to be him. They took one shot to him last week, got the DPI call. But I think to your point earlier in the podcast, how much better Kayshon Boutte played than Tyquan Thornton. They're similar in terms of their speed and their skill set. So I'm going to go with Boutte as my offensive X factor. Maybe get him some more snaps, some more reps. He's a good matchup guy. He's kind of got a decent route tree. He's getting better each week. I still think his ceiling is not to be realized yet. He's still on the up. And maybe he's the guy that can maybe break the offense open a bit and maybe show the Patriots they have a legitimate weapon in the receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what they've done, he's gotten 4 targets and they've averaged 20 yards down the field. They're giving him some of the deep shots. Something has to connect at some point in theory. But it's also one where, is that going to be what gets the Patriots past the 49ers? Maybe that happens. My X factor is going to be Jalen Polk. I think we've seen that Demario Douglas can make things happen. We've seen with Hunter Henry, he can make things happen. What the Patriots really need is someone else to carry it, because if I'm the 49ers, I'm going to say clog the middle of the field again. Good luck trying to get it to Demario Douglas. Good luck trying to get it to Hunter Henry. Win with anyone else, because you've not shown the ability to do that. Look at the other receivers. Polk only has 31 yards on the year. Thornton has 27. Osborne has 28. No one else is doing anything at the receiver role. And so if I'm the 49ers, how am I playing this? Yeah, bracket coverage on Henry and Douglas. Good luck. And so someone else has to really stand out. And if Polk's able to do it, he's been able to get separation. All of it comes down to, can Brissett have enough time behind the offensive line? And that's where, if they get creative, find ways to elongate the time where he's allowed to have plays develop, I think there's a situation where Polk could generate some yards on crossers across the field.
You brought up KJ Osborne, Rich. You've seen the movie Office Space?
Yep.
Remember when the Bobs were interviewing Spikowski and he said, "What is it you do here?" And Spikowski had to justify his existence. "I talk to the people so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills." Why is KJ Osborne on this team? What is, in a perfect world, given the receiver room right now, what is his role on this offense?
In a perfect world, he's Kendrick Bourne, right? Like that's one where if he's a wide receiver 3, that could be fine. He's done well with the Vikings when he was a wide receiver 3. I thought that's what the plan was going to be here, where you have Demario Douglas hopefully getting more of the targets. And then whether it's Polk or Baker or even Bourne when he returns, whatever it is to knock KJ Osborne down to that number 3 spot, totally cool. He's not a number 1 receiver. The Patriots don't have a number 1 receiver at this point in time. The ones that have the potential upside to be that true number 1 receivers would be Polk, Boutte, and Baker. I would love to see them get more opportunities. Just put them out there. We're done with Taekwon. We're done with KJ Osborne. There's nothing that Osborne does that Douglas can't do, in my mind. And there's nothing that Osborne does that warrants him to get playing time over Polk. And, Osborne currently leads the receiver room in snaps this year. We need to stop that. It's a situation where he's not doing anything out there. He's a sacrificial lamb to whatever the opposing team's coverage is, but he's also not even necessarily effective at that job, because if you were to look at some of the other players that the Patriots have used over the years, where their simple role is to distract the defense. There were games in a row where Chris Hogan maybe got 3 targets, but his primary job was just to gas the defense, just run 60 yards down the field, pull the safety over the top so that Edelman had space to maneuver underneath. If they gave it to Thornton to do over Osborne, that's fine, but they just need to have someone on the outside that actually makes the defense go, oh, I need to pay attention to this person, because to this point, there's not been a receiver that shows that they can do that with any consistency.
No, there is not. You mentioned Kendrick Bourne. The good news is he is eligible to return after the Niners game next week. Don't know if he will, but at least he's eligible. And we're hearing good things out of camp that he's getting close to being ready. So I don't think he's some kind of cavalry coming to save the day, but he can't make it any worse. I'll tell you that much. They're not going to be worse when Kendrick Bourne comes back. If the Patriots have any chance, Rich Hill, let's go to 4th and goal. If the Pats have any chance of taking this game, it's going to be on the defense versus a pretty banged up 49ers offense. McCaffrey is currently in Germany for some reason, getting an Achilles evaluation. Deebo Samuel is out. Some skilled players are banged up. They're not as potent as they could be were they at full strength. So if you're the Patriots defense, how are you attacking this more limited but still dangerous 49ers offense?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. Right? It seems like the 49ers, better than everyone, have that next person up mentality. Obviously, Brock Purdy has been playing pretty well. But you look at who's been producing, Juwan Jennings, who had him as being their most productive receiver at this point. And then you have Jordan Mason, who is playing lights out of that backfield while McCaffrey's down. They have been just stepping up to the plate, doing a great job with being the next person, where the highest paid players, Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo, they're being outplayed by these 4th and 5th players. And so even if they're not available, they are still stepping up to be able to produce well. For the Patriots, what are you going to do? You put Christian Gonzalez on Brandon Ayuk. That's one thing that you do have to do. And then you just try and have that trickle down effect to say, all right, can we put hat on a hat to the point where we can slow them down? We're not going to shut this offense out. That's not going to happen. But is there a point where you can slow down the game, where you make this an 8-possession game, just like what the Patriots did against the Bengals? You need to have that complementary football. Obviously, the offense has to do something for the Patriots that they didn't do against the Jets. But if I'm the Patriots defense, I try and do that standard Bill Belichick thing of say, you cannot get a home run against us. We are not going to let that happen. You're going to have 12 play drives in order to score. If you leave with a field goal, we'll call it a win. And honestly, I think that the Patriots secondary is good enough to go toe-to-toe with these players. The question for me is the Patriots defensive front. Can they do enough to disrupt Brock Purdy to make this 49ers offense not as effective and efficient as they usually are? So Keon White's going to be my X factor. He's been the Patriots wrecking ball up front, but Patriots are missing a lot. Obviously Bentley is now on the injured reserve. They've been missing Barmore this whole year. There's a very clear drop off from Bentley to McMillan. And then Tavai is, playing beyond his means at this point. But if Keon White is able to go out there, have a very strong day against this 49ers offensive line and disrupt Purdy, maybe force a turnover or two, that's the only way New England's going to win this.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You got Keon White on the defensive side of the ball, and you got Ramondre Stevenson on the offensive side of the ball. And if those two guys have a bad game, it could be in for a long one. I will say, though, I mean, I don't know. I would at this point, it's tough to kind of gauge based on the stats, but I don't know if Christian Gonzalez is getting enough love from people around the league and what he's been able to do. I mean, he's had just every single game he's played, he's had to cover one of the better receivers in the NFL, and he's always done it. Nobody has owned Christian Gonzalez yet. So I'm going to make him as my X factor. I'm not sure if they're going on Jordan Williams, I'm not sure going on Ayuk, what they're going to do with him, but I'm like to get to the point where he's going to be the kind of guy where they put him on their best receiver and they follow him around the field, and that guy's out. So Gonzalez is my guy.
I love that. I mean, I've loved Gonzalez since he came out in the draft. He's also just lived up to the expectations right out of the gate. Obviously, I don't think Pro Football Focus loves him that much, but it's a situation where I just look at the eye test. Obviously, he had a few slips and stuff like that against the Jets, but he was always in position. That touchdown, he could not have had better coverage on that one. So if I'm the Patriots, I entrust him against the top receiver. Aaron Rodgers mentioned how, he's doing shade coverage. He's following the number one receiver around the field. He has that ability, and they trust him to do that, which is a testament to what he's able to do. And to what you said, no one's really beaten him that much. And so if he can go out there and do his job to the level that they are expecting him to do, I feel like they'll be fine enough. This entire game comes down to, can New England do anything on offense?
Yeah, can they do anything on offense? And I don't know the answer to that question. But again, if the defense can keep it close and maybe get some turnovers, we get maybe a big blocked punt or some short fields, and they don't have to engineer an 75, 80-yard drive, definitely possible. Again, I think if they can somehow mimic the game plan against the Bengals, anything can go. Like I said, if the Patriots play perfect football and their opponents make some mistakes that they can capitalize on, they can win football games. If they play near perfect football and their opponents don't make any mistakes, it's kind of a toss-up. If they don't play great, they have no chance. And that's kind of where it's going to be all year. That's kind of all I got for this one, Rich. Want anything else or on the predictions?
Let's go on to predictions.
All right. These predictions are brought to you by Game Time, which is a great way to get tickets to your favorite sporting events, not just football, but college baseball, hockey, you name it. Game Time's got it. It's got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you all the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite app features are definitely the curated deals. Makes me easy to get prices on the great seats. You get seat views before you buy, no sitting behind poles. We've all been there. And of course, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, along with job loss protection. And of course, my favorite feature, all-in pricing. That means the total you get up front is what you pay. No more hidden fees or weird taxes at the end. So any game you want to go to, Game Time has got it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. So just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It is prediction time. It's not game time here. And someone who will remain nameless picked the Patriots to beat the Jets 23-21 last week.
Knucklehead.
And a much more intelligent analyst picked the Jets beating the Patriots 20-10. I was close. 10 would have been nice. I would have been really close if Drake May had put one in the end zone. I think I feel a lot better about that game, Rich. If Drake May had come in and just like engineered like a 60-yard like drive and just scored, I'd be happy with that. But he didn't. Maybe he will if this game gets out of hand by halftime. I just don't see any scenario where the Patriots win this game. It's one of those games I had locked in as a loss back in like April before anything even happened. The Niners are one of the better teams in the NFL. They're on the road. The Pats have that mini bye. Maybe this is one of those kind of like 2014 Kansas City Monday Night Football debacles where they kind of rally and dominate the next week. But I just can't see it happening. This is probably where the Patriots drop to 1-3. Jacoby Brissett sits down. Drake May comes in, and we kind of restart the season in October. Kind of forget September ever happened and just go forward, trying to build with the young guys. I'm going to hope it's a little closer than 24-3. I'm going to say the Niners take this one maybe 26-13, and maybe that 7 points comes kind of late in the fourth quarter, so it's kind of like 26-6, and then Pat's get a garbage time touchdown to make it seem a little closer than it actually was.
I mean, that's a good prediction. I actually was going to have the Patriots with 13 points as well. It's a situation where I don't think that they'll be as bad and ineffective as they were against the Jets. Like, if they have any reflection whatsoever as a team, they can't. That just is not acceptable. I still don't think that they're going to do much because this offensive line is in such a bad state. But I do think that we will be at the point where after this game, they have to make a change on offense. They have to. That's the type of offensive performance I'm expecting. It's going to be the type of game that I feel like will happen. Like, losing to the Jets 24-3 was definitely disappointing. If something happens like that again, there's going to have to be bigger shakeups because, like, what's the point of trotting them out again? And I think that I had the 49ers winning this one 35-13. I think that there might be a defensive score by the 49ers in this game that would really pad that scoring. But what we saw against the Jets was a Patriots defense that was so gassed that they couldn't do anything, right? And it's one where it's like, even out of the gate, they, let some big drives go on, but there was a point in time where the Jets had the time of possession. It was like 14-2 or something absurd like that. And that is where I kind of envision this game going, where I wouldn't blame the defense for just not being able to withstand the tide anymore. But it's also one where maybe the defense can force a turnover. Would love to see it. But I have the 49ers winning this one pretty handily, and I'll go with 35-13.
That is 2 beatdowns in a row, but that's okay. Not a crazy prediction. Let me ask you, Hill, before we close out, because that's an extra point going for 2. Let's say the Patriots lose, but Brissett plays really well. He has a good game. He's efficient. He may have 2 TD passes. Do you have to keep starting him, or would you make a change regardless next week or the week 5 against the Dolphins?
It would really depend on, like, were those good, clean productions, right? Like, was it a point where it was a slip screen and so ran it for 60 yards where I'm like, okay, how much of that was Jacoby versus how much of that was the receiver? Or is he someone that, like, showed command and presence and was able to withstand the pressure and deliver the passes that they need a quarterback to deliver? If that's what he does, then we go back to what we were saying of we need to have a point where Drake May is clearly the better option than Jacoby, where I don't think Jacoby has shown anything through 3 weeks that makes you say you have to start him because he's doing well enough. But if he does have that one game, especially on the road against San Francisco, even in a loss, I can see them withstanding another week. It's one where if he comes out here and they have net less than 130 passing yards, like they've had each of the first 3 weeks, then that's just not an NFL offense. That is just not a team that you can take seriously, and one where, for the sake of not losing the locker room, Gerard Mayo is going to have to make that change, right? Everyone remembers that he said Drake May outplayed Jacoby Brissett in the preseason. Everybody remembers that. And if you go through the first quarter of the year, and your passing attack is the worst in the entire league as they currently are, there's zero reason. And in fact, there's plenty of reason to switch to May over going to Brissett. Like, you are justified in making that switch.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be positioned to, once again, quote that movie Office Space, you don't want to work just hard enough not to get fired, right? There's no reason to have him play just well enough to eke out one more week, lengthen the leash a little bit. For what? What's the purpose of this? You know, let's just love me from Brissett. I'm glad he's on the team. He was my favorite offseason signing. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. But I think the time will be week 5, regardless of how we play. I think unless he like lights it up for like 405, but I don't think he'll do that. If he dominates, great. But otherwise, I think this is Brissett's last week. I'll make that second prediction since I'm probably going to write up this one again. I'm on a hot streak of predictions this year, Rich Hill. So I may as well ride the wave. I lose to you every year in predictions. I'm off to a hot start and I'm happy about it. So I will predict Brissett.
I don't like it.
No, I can't imagine you do, but again, no matter how well he plays, I imagine this is the last time we'll see him under center as a starter.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one you mentioned. There's like a long stretch here. They have a London game in the middle, but then there's 3 other games at home. This is as soft of a start as you're going to get. And also one where it's like, you're going to lose the team if you wait much longer.
Yeah.
Right? There's no value. There's no point. No one is benefiting from continuing with Jacoby. You're delaying the growth of the receivers out there. You're just treading water, and it's not worth it. It's just simply not worth it. Hand over the reins, call it. There's nothing that Jacoby's doing. If he was going out there, as I said, and was being a middling quarterback, that's fine. He's literally been the least productive quarterback in the entire league, maybe 32nd or 31st or 30th ahead of Bryce Young and Deshaun Watson, but where he's a bottom tier starter and he's becoming the problem. Obviously the offensive line is the problem, but he's not helping. But yeah, so I'm with you completely that I wouldn't be shocked if the game got out of hand that Drake May would take over in the second half and not look back.
Well, it's good, man. That way we can have a May Watch segment on our podcast going forward. We can break down how he's doing, what the progress is. It'll be kind of fun. We can not only break down the game, but how Drake May looked and how he's getting better with each week. He's going to regress. There are going to be some really bad throws in there, but that's all part of the growing pains. Hopefully next week we'll have a little less despondence in our voice because it won't be, again, I'm not be upset about the loss. As long as they lose with dignity, I'll be okay.
Nope, totally. And I'll be looking forward to breaking it down with you. Hopefully they'll turn a corner at some point in time and start looking viable as a team. I have a hard time seeing it being against this 49ers team, but that's why we watch. That's why it's fun to see what can they actually do. And in the meantime, we can just enjoy that the Patriots special teams unit is one of the best we've seen in a while. They've been doing very well through 3 weeks. So if you really like dirty, gross football, go Patriots special teams. Behringer is just being unreal all-pro level right now at the punter spot.
Yeah, he is. He's once again, he may be the first back-to-back Patriots MVP since Tom Brady, for what it's worth, I guess. Yay.
Woof. All right. Well, until next time, Alec, you have a good one.
You too, buddy. See ya.
Later, man.